So this is very interesting what's happening to the Democrat Party. This morning on the New York Times is the Daily Podcast. They likened it to what happened with Republicans in 2009, 2010, after Barack Obama won in a sweeping victory and won all, the House, the Senate, and the White House. And the Tea Party was born and, healthcare was shoved down our throats. And the Republicans just wanted one thing, which was to find some way to fight these guys. And they were likening that to what we're seeing now with Dems. Here are the numbers, according to the polls we saw over the weekend. First, there's CNN saying that, okay, let's see. The Democratic Party's favorability rating stands at just 29%, a record low dating back to 1992, and a drop of 20 points in just 4 years since January of 2021. A drop of 20 points and a record low at 29%. We saw similar numbers out of NBC, so it's not a one-off. NBC shows the Democratic Party with just a 27% positive rating, 55% negative, so they're underwater by 28 points, a record low for the Democrat Party in more than 30 years of polling. Why?
It's possible that some of that is being generated by this kind of liberal angst, this kind of dissatisfaction with Democratic Party leadership and this perception that they're, quote unquote, not fighting hard enough, not fighting Trump hard enough, whatever that might mean. So maybe if you ask liberals now, what do you think of the Democratic Party? They'd be more inclined, many of them would be, to say we don't approve of that. But it's clearly much broader than that. I think that's just one factor. The problem is, if you ask me what was the worst problem with the Kamala Harris campaign, it'd be very difficult to answer given how many problems that campaign had. But if I were forced to choose the worst, I would say that she never committed to believing in anything, to standing for anything. Americans by the end of the campaign were like, I don't even know who she is, let alone what she really believes in. Like, what are her real convictions? What motivates her? With Trump, you always know, for better or for worse, from people's perception, he doesn't hide what he believes. Quite the opposite. So the contrast was extreme. And I think in the Democratic Party more broadly, basically going back to 2015, 2016, they've defined themselves by being horrified by Donald Trump, by being aghast by Donald Trump, by being fearful of Donald Trump, by not being Donald Trump. But there's no positive vision. There's no affirmative agenda that Americans can look at and say, oh, this is what I like. So even if you see a softening in approval ratings for Trump, and you see it a little bit, not very much, but on certain issues at least, it doesn't translate into higher support for the Democratic Party because they don't provide an alternative. It's just, we're going to fight Trump, but based on what? Based on what set of values or policies or even ideology? Nobody knows.
Right. What are you going to do? And that is actually also reflected in this CNN poll, because they asked, name the Democratic leader you feel best reflects the core values of the party. And this is among Democratic aligned adults. The largest recipient of votes was no one. 30% said no one. No one best reflects the core values of the Democrat Party. The next in line with just 10% was AOC, who's just about tied with Kamala Harris at 9%. Bernie Sanders at 8%. These are all bad numbers. These are clearly not the party leaders if you're only getting 9 or 10%. But interestingly, coming in at 4% is Barack Obama, who is tied with Jasmine Crockett. Yes, Jasmine Crockett, who nobody ever even heard of 6 months ago, but is out there doing her like dancing videos and trying to be like a new version of AOC. But unbelievably, Obama and Jasmine Crockett are tied for who best reflects the core values of the party, which tells us what?
Well, I think if you look at the people you named, obviously other than Obama, who's there because he was the president, and Kamala, who's there because she just got done being the nominee, but 9% is pathetic, or whatever it was, 8%. The three people
9.
that you named, AOC, Bernie, and Jasmine Crockett, for all the intense disagreements I have with them, are people who, in contrast to what I just got done saying, do actually believe in things and do actually say the things that they believe in And I think most of all, what they're doing now is creating this kind of perception, this branding, this posture, like we are going to fight Trump on everything. And on some level, what the Democratic Party wants, what Democratic Party voters want, I think this poll shows it, is not just fighting with Trump, but somebody who at least believes in things. And that was, Bernie's campaign in 2016 and 2020 stood for a clear affirmative agenda, which a lot of people disliked and a lot of people liked, but you can't deny that he did. And I think that's what this is showing above all else. You've had this like faceless, kind of soulless, very consultant driven, artificial set of Democratic Party leaders who are petrified of saying the wrong word, going off script even a single time. And then you have Donald Trump just riffing every day on everything without the slightest regard for how people are going to react to the things that he's saying. And I think that is what has made the Democratic Party, which is just like this very limp, neoliberal, vaguely kind of trying to be a center-left party, but never really saying much or believing in anything. I think that's what you're seeing in these polls among Democratic Party voters is at least the people who are out there making a mockery of themselves, like Jasmine Crockett, which is why the media loves her. At least they're saying something. They don't seem super constrained.
Mm-hmm. They're not afraid. Limp is a rough word, but I think you're right. It applies. That is kind of how you feel when you look at the Democrats today. Okay, so let's get to the point that you made. You're exactly right. Both of these polls, CNN and NBC, seem to try to get at why are the Democrats so unhappy? And it is not because Team Blue refuses to compromise with Trump, who has a mandate to change the country. It is not that at all. The Democrats are mad about any compromise. They want their party leaders to get in there and fight and stop Trump. There's still the party, there is still some strain within it that is very, very TDS afflicted. This is CNN. Most Democratic-aligned adults say the party should focus on trying to stop the GOP agenda. And that's, okay, so the majority want that. In just 2017, when Trump began his first term, 74% of the Dems thought the Dems should work with Republicans. Okay, now it's only 42% who want Dems to work with Republicans. And just doing the math, it must be somewhere over, 50, 58% who say fight, stop the GOP agenda. 52% of Democratic-aligned adults say the Democratic Party is taking the wrong direction with the Republican Party. And then jumping to the NBC poll, similar numbers where they say, hold on, here it is. Okay. No more compromising, they say. Almost 2/3 of Democrats, 65%, say they want congressional Democrats to stick to their positions, even if that risks sacrificing bipartisan progress. Just 32% want them to make legislative compromises with Trump. It was almost exactly the opposite in April of 2017. 59% of Dems said they wanted to make compromises with Trump. Again, now 65% say no compromises, which leads us to Chuck Schumer, whose behavior was somewhat ill-timed when you look at these polls, which came out after he announced he would vote for the continuing resolution to make sure that the government stayed open for the next 6 months. It's really just kicking the can for a bit before they can have the real fight. But in any event, he and a handful, 8 Democrats came forward to say, we'll vote through to make sure that the government doesn't shut down. And now there's actual talk of bouncing him out as party leader, Glenn.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You had referenced earlier the fact that a lot of Republicans under the Obama, especially the second term of Obama, wanted absolutely no compromise with the Obama administration, wanted nothing but pure resistance to everything that he did. John Boehner, when he was the House Speaker, used to feel boxed in because he wanted to do deals when deals could be done, but a lot of the base was vehemently opposed to any attempt to work with Democrats. And Obama, they wanted an opposition party. And on some level, Democrats are now in this same position where they don't want to do deals. They don't want to join hands with the Republicans and reach compromises. They just want an opposition party. I think the big difference is that if you go back and look at the Republicans in the first term of Obama, the second term of Obama, they had an agenda. Everybody understood what Paul Ryan or Mitt Romney or John McCain, what these people stood for, like what their values were, what their agenda was, the reason why they wanted to oppose the Obama administration, I go back to the fact that the Democrats have none of this. They just don't have any kind of affirmative agenda. And this is the thing, this difference in the polling, I think, is so interesting between 2017 and now, because ever since Trump got elected to that first term, Democrats and liberals have been feeding now on almost a decade of not just Trump has a wrong ideology or Trump has bad policies, Trump is a fascist, Trump is a Hitler figure, Trump's here to end American democracy, Trump is a stooge of the Kremlin. And if you really start feeding on those kinds of ideas and that kind of demonization and come to believe it, I think it makes sense to feel like, oh, we shouldn't be cooperating with Trump. The problem is that all of the things that liberals seem to want in these polls, that's all been tried. What did we hear throughout the last 3 to 4 months of the 2024 election? Trump is a fascist. Trump admires Hitler. Trump is going to end democracy. Trump is a stooge of Putin. These things have all been all over the place, and they don't work. People don't believe that about Donald Trump. And that's why I think Democrats are so lost, this idea that we need to attack Trump even more. They have the media who has been doing that. The Democratic Party has been doing that. And apparently they just want to double down on this strategy that clearly isn't working for them.
You don't go out and buy a life jacket when the boat is already sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy has already collapsed. Clearly others are heeding this advice as gold hit all-time highs already this year. It's not too late for you too, and you could have Birch Gold help you diversify into physical gold. Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold for no money out of pocket. One recent 5-star review said Birch Gold was, quote, knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. Get your free info kit on gold by texting the letters MK to the number 989898. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, just text MK to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.